All right, welcome back to Wellness Wednesday. We're talking about a very important topic, but also a heartbreaking one this Wednesday because of the heat that has been ramping up across the South. On average, 37 children die from vehicular heat stroke every year in the United States, which equates to roughly 2 children per week during the peak summer months. Today we have Dr. Quinn with us to break down this very important topic and also to help reduce the number of tragedies that we see here, especially in the state of Mississippi. Good morning, Dr. Quinn.
Good morning.
So what precautions can parents take when it comes to this extreme heat and the dangers that it poses to their family?
Well, the most important thing that we want to convey today is we want to put it on the front of the mind, because I did more research and it's broken down into why it happens. 50%, over half of the children that lose their life because they're left in a vehicle unattended in the heat, especially in the summer months of July in Mississippi, which is one of the hottest states,
Right.
is because they simply forget. So I watched a lot of information, different documentaries, and learned that, you know, a lot of parents are overwhelmed right now. Everybody's just trying to get where they're going. They might stop at the gas station on the way to daycare to drop their child off, and they'll go in the gas station and they might get distracted. They might see an old friend, or maybe their credit card does not work. Don't do that. Don't leave the child in the car. Always take the child in with you, because for children, their bodies can heat up 5 times more quickly than adults, because they're not able to cool down like we can. Their systems are not developed where they can just sweat, or they have a very high body surface area as far as the way they're built, because they're so small. But we have to keep that in mind. And then the second fact that I found was the fact that 25% of parents, they will have their child to lose their life in a vehicle that's unattended. The child will get into the car, maybe they're playing like they're driving, and they can't get out because, you know, children, they might not be able to open the door, or maybe it's a broken down car.
Right.
What's so devastating is the last 25% were discovered to be intentional. Maybe some of these parents or caregivers, and I see, but it's terrible. It's true though. They might have mental illness, or maybe they just are abusive. And I've seen a lot of reports where they were arrested, and I think a lot more should have happened to them.
Absolutely, Dr. Quinn. You kind of touched on the difference of how fast the heat affects an infant and a child, and that's why we always talk about how they are more susceptible of heat illnesses. Anyone who is elderly or who is a baby, an infant, a child, they're going to be more susceptible to these types of conditions than we are as healthy adults. So that's really important to remember. I also have heard of a couple of tips. Now, I know they have a lot of technology these days where they can, you know, you can be alerted by some of these car seats if you're leaving your baby in the car. But one old school tip is to leave something in the front seat to remind you, hey, even if life is really stressful and you have a lot on your mind, this thing in the front seat's going to remind me, check the back seat, right? Because you have a baby or you have an infant. So another thing is always to look before you lock. That's something we as, you know, meteorologists tell people as well to kind of avoid hot car deaths. Always check the car before you lock it, because like you said, that child could be trapped in there and not have a way out, and you may not even realize it. So if a bystander maybe encounters a situation where they think that this could be dangerous for a child, what should they do?
Well, I looked at that as well, and there are laws in different states called bystander laws, but in Mississippi there are no laws. But this is where common sense comes in. If you approach a car and you see a child in the car and the child is active and no distress, if you could have someone to just watch the child, and then you go into the facility and have them to call the parent or caregiver over the overhead. But if the child is in distress, go ahead and call 911 and report the location, the license plate number. And if the child is in distress where they're not responsive, you're tapping on the window, go ahead and break the window. You know, because what I read was even though there's no law to protect you from vandalizing a car, no judge is going to convict you for that
No.
because at the end of the day, it's just common sense.
Right.
I would take a brick and just break the window, but don't
Yeah.
let the glass hit the child.
Yeah.
And get the child out of there.
Yeah, get them to safety. I mean, that's the most important thing, Dr. Quinn. Also, when it's so hot outside, we're talking about possibly some of the hottest temperatures later this week and into next weekend, or into next week, mid to upper 90s. So when it's that hot, I mean, how quickly can a child become in distress and go into a heat-related illness or even a heat stroke?
Because of what we talked about earlier with the higher surface area, the child's body core temperature can heat up 5 times as fast as an adult, and
Wow.
they can't cool down as quick because their nervous system is not developed enough yet. It could be within minutes, like maybe 5 to 10 minutes, the child could lose their life, depending on the child, the heat, the scenario, the car.
Right.
But there's no minutes can be the difference between life and death for your child.
Yeah.